Hey everybody, Chris here. Welcome back to another episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. Down at the property this weekend, working on the pool plumbing again. It was a balmy 29 degrees this morning. It's still March, so West Virginia March, you never know what you're going to get. I think it's going to be 60 by this afternoon, and then down below freezing again tonight. So it just, temperature varies widely during the early spring months here in West Virginia. So what we're working on right now is actually cutting down some trees. The one that I'm working on right now broke out last fall. We had a bad storm and the heart of that tree was rotten, and so it just snapped off and kind of fell out onto the road. I drug it off the road so we could keep working down here and just left it for a later day to, we had other priorities going on at that time. Well, that later day has come. There's another tree up the road that's got to get taken care of because it's blocking part of our parking and our turnaround area at the other end of the road. We'll get to that one here in just a minute. I'm waiting for the temperature to come up a little bit because I'm ready to do a little bit of final digging, but then start cutting and fitting pipes together and gluing. You got to have the temperature up a little bit. You can't be below freezing to do any sort of PVC pipe cement or anything like that. So we're waiting for the temperature to come up a little bit. Shouldn't take too long. The sun's up, it's bright, it's cheery, blue sky, birds are singing, so it's a great day down here at Woodmere Estate. Okay, so this is what I've been up to this morning. This tree is the one that broke out during the storm last year, and you can see how rotten that end of it is. And then up at the top there, that's where it broke off. And when it fell, it actually fell across the road, but thankfully I was able to just get out and kind of drag it over here beside the road and leave it for a later date. The wood's actually in pretty decent shape. Thankfully it's been off the ground, so it hasn't just been laying here rotten all winter. So I'm actually going to cut it up and then carry it over there to our stone barbecue, and we'll use that to have some cheery little campfires later on. Here you can see Woodmere Hollow. It's a deep hollow and a steep drop along a lot of the section of this property. So thankfully the tree didn't fall over the hill. If it did, I'd probably be leaving it because it's got a tough work down in there. And from here you can see the house, and there's been a lot of transformation on the house since we last checked in with you guys. You can see all the porch columns are gone. They took all those down this week. They've got some temporary bracing up there supporting the porch roof, and you can see big piles of concrete and other debris there, and that is from the slab where the slate patio was kind of laid across the porch there. That's the concrete slab, so they busted all that up this week, and they are carting that off and dumping it there for now. We're going to have a skid steer in the next week to load all this stuff up and do some landscaping and grading and stuff around the front of the property. But they're going to get the new slab poured on the front porch. We'll take a look at that on a little closer basis here in just a few minutes, but they'll have that poured, and then they'll start putting the columns back up. We're going to go back with square columns just like we had before in that kind of classic Mount Vernon style, and we're going to use composite column wraps so that we never have to worry about painting, wood rot, or anything like that again. Okay, so I'm going to get back to cutting trees here, try to get this junk out of the road, and then hopefully it's going to warm up a little bit and I'll be able to get my plumbing project started. Well, it's down. Was not too bad. My surprise is when it hit the ground and it jumped up there. Definitely startled me a little bit, but it didn't come any closer than it did. Even though it was an old dead tree, the bottom was still pretty solid. The middle, obviously not. You can see where that tree is just rotten completely through the core. And so it's no wonder when that thing experienced some stress under that windstorm that it snapped off there in the middle. So one down. Next we head down to the end of the road there in the turnaround area next to where the old guest house was. Tree fell out of root there and dropped across the manhole and made a big mess there. So I'm gonna get this stuff cleaned up and then head down to the other end of the road and work on that one for a bit. Okay, so here's tree number 2. This tree turned out of root over along the creek over here and hit the city sewer manhole dead center. I mean, could have done it any better if you'd have tried. Now the interesting thing about this manhole, you can see it sitting right there close to the ground, which really is where it should be, sitting on top of this concrete piece here. That's you know, part of the city sewer. The interesting thing is that this manhole was actually sitting about, I don't know, 6 feet up in the air. If you look over here, there's a huge pile of brick. That used to be a tower built on top of this concrete. This poured concrete section of the sewer here used to be a tower on top of it, and then the manhole sat on top of that. The city sewer guys came out and they're like, yeah, we don't know what that is. We didn't do that. So, you know, who knows how long ago it was done. Nobody has record of it in the system. But at any rate, it was jacked way up in the air. It looked hideous. The previous owners could kind of let the bushes, the forsythia, grow up around it. So it kind of hid a lot of it. But man, it was still pretty ugly. So we had hoped that we were going to be able to take it down at some point and kind of disguise it back here. Well, then the tree fell on it. And the guys from the city were nice enough to come out, and they used a big excavator to push the tree off the side of the manhole. And then they took the sledgehammers and stuff and knocked it down. I think they used the excavator, but knocked it down and then set the original manhole cover back here rather than jacked way up in the air. So they left the tree for us. They said this actually wasn't on the right-of-way. I guess the right-of-way kind of runs right here where the manhole is. They said the tree actually wasn't on the right-of-way, but they went ahead and at least cut it back for us into several sections, got it on the ground, because it was hanging 30 feet up in the air on the other end there. And so there was no way that I was going to get up there and start cutting on that thing. So thankfully we were able to get the city to come out and deal with it. So I'm going to try to get some of these branches cut back. I'm not going to cut the whole thing up today, don't have time for that. But I'm going to get some of these branches cut back so where we can at least get in here and turn around again and be able to park some equipment and turn vehicles around in the driveway of the old guest house over here. So that's next on tap for this morning. All right, so I got most of the treetop on the ground now. I just left the trunk and, you know, the biggest stuff intact. I'll come back on a different day and cut that up into firewood sized chunks, and we'll have to probably use the tractor to get some of that big stuff up over the hill. Some big old butt logs. But this stuff I'm just going to kind of drag out of the way, and once it gets dried out a little bit, we'll just burn the tops and get rid of all that junk. But this is going to open up this parking lot again here at the end of the road, and this driveway over here where we always turn around, and finally get all this junk out of the way. So it'd be good to see this going. All right, so that is looking a whole lot better. We now get the driveway reopened, so we can actually park some tractors and turn some vehicles over here. And we got a big pile of branches over here to burn on at a later date. They were actually greening up and budding out a little bit, so apparently there was enough root left in the ground on the other end of the tree to make that happen with spring on its way. So at any rate, looking a whole lot better. Now we can at least get vehicles through here and park and turn around down here. I'll save the rest of this job for another day. I'm going to head down to the pool now and get cracking on getting that new plumbing in place. All right, so we are digging around the pool now. This side's all cleared out, and this side is cleared out over to the ditch. And right now we are working on the ditch. which is not been easy to dig, has it, Dad?
The ditch is not cooperating.
Old hard clay and shale and all sorts of nasty stuff down in there. But anyways, we got to get it down to the same level as the perimeter ditch around the pool. That way we can carry the pipe straight across here and right into the pump house. Pump house is looking a lot better. If you remember last time we cleaned that out, shoveled it out, washed it out, it's looking a whole lot better. Got rid of all the old junk that was in there, the old water heater sitting over there. And then, of course, the old sand filter, the old chlorinator, old pipes and pump and all that stuff was worn out and busted. There's some of the old galvanized stuff that was laying in the back there. They'd disconnected and just never bothered to take out of there. So, looking a lot better in the pump house. So we're going to finish digging out this ditch. And then we're going to go ahead and start dry fitting all the plumbing around the side here and start laying her back to the pump house. All right, so we made a lot of progress here. We got the big ditch that goes back to the pump house cleaned out, all except for this little dam here that's holding back the water. It keeps coming out of the hillside. All the rain we've had keeps coming out. But we got this cleaned out nicely. And then stepping down in here, we're good all the way over there to the corner. Dad's taking a measurement there. We're trying to stay 24 inches on at a minimum, just to protect things from freezing and give us a little safety zone there. We don't get a lot of hard winters here anymore, but you never know. It'll be 4 inches of concrete and gravel and then sand on top of that. So a lot of insulation, but we're going to be careful, try to set it at 24. Here you can see where I've been cutting off the old fittings, the old galvanized. It's coming up out of the floor over here. Cutting those off, and I'm going to grind them down even with the floor. And then the new fittings are going to penetrate the wall, go out the side, and then down into the ditch. So lots of progress so far today, and we're going to get back to digging, grinding, knocking some holes in the side of the pool house, and then we're going to be ready to dry fit the skimmer in the side of the pool. And that'll be the first thing that we'll plumb, run plumbing back to the pool house for that. And then we'll start running the returns back to the pool house on the same side. Keep on trucking around the pool. Try to get as much of it dry fit today as we can while we got daylight. All right, so we got our skimmer box set finally. Had to use a combination of the rotohammer and a grinder with a diamond cup wheel and a big grinder with a diamond coated saw blade on it to cut out a notch for that thing to sit in. We'd already done a lot of widening, but we hadn't done enough deepening to get that thing to set. Kind of forgot about that, and I pulled the coping off and set that thing in place. I'm like, oh man, it's sitting too high. So I had to come in and notch the wall a little bit more to get it to sit down where it's supposed to. So now we got it sitting in place, and then we've dry fit a 90 there and a couple pieces of PVC to get us over in the ditch. So looking at the ditch here, you can see how much we took out today. We cleaned this thing out a lot, and it was not fun. It's old hard pan and clay and rocks and everything else, just a real mess. You can see our gas line where it goes through here, our new gas line. And then over here you can see the edge of the pool house. Been digging around over in here. Let me take you over here into the soupy mess and show you underneath the pool house. Yeah, big void there, huh? So, the plan originally was to bring the lines up and penetrate the wall of the pool house and go in through the wall. But when I started digging over here, I noticed there was a huge void under the pool house. I started thinking, could we in fact go inside the pool house, cut a hole in the floor, and then send everything out underneath the slab into the ditch, and then across the way. And so thinking about the frost line and how deep we're trying to get everything, it actually seems like that's going to be a better plan, because this dirt and everything that's sitting here, it's kind of deceiving. It kind of gave me a false sense of how deep those lines are really going to be when they go into the side of the pool house. A lot of that stuff's going to go away. That's where the patio is going to be sitting, and the patio is going to be back flush with the wall of the pool house. So I'm actually not going to have as much overburden as I thought to cover up those lines if we go into the side. So in the interest of trying to protect those during the wintertime, I think it actually might be a better plan if we go in here and saw cut the floor, because it's only 2 to 3 inches deep, it looks like. So saw cut that, and then use the roto hammer, open up a big square opening, maybe 12 by 12, something like that. And then we'll be able to drop our pipes all down through the hole, make connections underneath, and then go ahead and run them through the ditch and out to the pool. That actually might keep everything a little bit deeper and give us a better chance of getting everything fit into the pool house where it needs to. So that's the plan I'm going with right now. So Dad just took off for the house. He will be back tomorrow to give me a hand again. But I'm getting ready to fire up the big grinder with the diamond coated saw blade on it and go ahead and cut a big square hole inside the pool house where I can get all that dirt and stuff cleaned out from underneath there and actually create a place where we can drop the lines down through the floor. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier. I just kind of thought it was sitting on, rock, or, I just never dreamed there'd be a big void under there. So that kind of changes things. So now we're going to go through the slab. And I'm kind of happy about that. I think it's going to ultimately give us a better result. So I'm going to get started on that, see how much dust I can throw in the air. I guarantee you it's going to be a lot.
So man, that is a nasty, dusty job. Holy cow. It's hard to see what I was doing. Had to make some marks on the floor, then as soon as the dust started flying, it was hard to see where I was going. But I think I ended up with a reasonably square hole. So as soon as the dust clears behind me there, I will get in there and start chipping it out with the roto hammer and see exactly what we're going to have as far as access for the pipes.
All right, so we got our hole cut in the floor and used the roto hammer with the chisel bit to break it out. I was afraid to use a sledgehammer or jackhammer or anything else to break it out because you can see it's a fairly thin slab, and I didn't want to take a chance on cracking any of the rest of the stuff around it, especially go beating on the rebar and stuff. It'll pop and break the concrete next to it. So I'm going to hook the grinding blade and cutting blade back up in the grinder, the big grinder, and then cut that rebar out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and dig down and create a nice deep cavity that is level with the ditch on the outside. And we should have plenty of room for all the plumbing. I got to run 9 2-inch lines in here. Sounds like a lot, but you know, that's a 15 by 15 hole, so we got plenty of space there. I'm going to try to do the lines by type, so put all the suction lines together and put all the discharge lines together, and then, you know, even beyond that, try to group all the skimmer lines next to each other versus the main drain and everything, just to try to make it easier when we go to plumb everything else here in the pool house. So I think this is actually going to work better than the original idea. I'm so glad that we discovered that there was a cavity under there, and that just kind of made sense. You know, let's cut a hole in the floor and dig it out and run everything in from underneath, and then we'll go ahead and cover all our lines with plastic and pour concrete around it and down in the hole below so that we can have plenty of strength back in the floor again. So I'm going to go ahead and get the grinder going again and cut off the rebar. Then I'll get the shovel in here and start digging down, and then outside too, start digging underneath and try to get this all cleaned up and everything and ready to go. It's getting dark, the sun is setting, so I'm going to have to hustle and pick up all my tools and everything, get those put away, and try to wrap up for the evening here in just a little bit. So I'm going to try to get as much done as I can on this hole before I have to quit for the night. Well, everything was going great. I was using my grinder here to take the rebar out from under the slab, or from within the slab, to you know, make the hole there for the pipe. It was going great until the unfortunate occurrence when the spinning wheel of death bound up down there in that corner where I was trying to cut that last little piece of rebar out, and came back looking for my finger. And unfortunately, as you can see, got the end of it pretty good there. Couldn't find any paper towels or band-aids or anything, so I got it wrapped in wet newspaper. That's the kind of stuff you got to be careful with. I mean, those grinders have a lot of power, and that wheel is really flying. And so sometimes, I mean, you got to keep both hands on it, and I did, but unfortunately, it got bound up and then came back looking for me. So anyway, I'm going to try to use the Sawzall to go ahead and remove that last little piece of rebar, because I'm not messing with the grinder anymore tonight. And then I'm going to get it cleaned up because the sun's setting out here. Got to get all these tools and everything picked up just in case it rains during the night. So I'm going to get this last little piece of rebar out of here, because now I'm pissed at it. And then we'll wrap up for the night. All right, it is almost dark. I just got everything cleaned up and locked back up in the house. Very productive day. Every time we do one of these videos, we're like, yeah, we're going to put down the pipe, we're going to lay it all out dry, then we're going to glue it, and once again, we didn't do that today. We did get a couple pieces laid out, a couple pieces dry fit, but we just keep running into things that you know, slow the process down a little bit, and they're not necessarily bad things. You know, none of us have ever plumbed a pool before. That we're kind of feeling our way through this. Plumbing's plumbing, but you know, there are some special considerations when you're working on a pool. But real happy with where we ended up today. We figured out a better way to get the plumbing into the pump house. We're actually going to be able to use a hole cut in the floor to bring the plumbing into the pump house. So I actually think that's going to work out a little bit better. It's going to keep the pipes deeper, less likely to freeze. I think it's just going to work out okay. So glad we got that figured out. I'm going to take my 9 good fingers and go home and put a band-aid on my bad finger, get some dinner, and get some rest, get ready to come back down here tomorrow and hit it hard. So I'll see you guys real soon. All right, it is day 2, back down at the house this morning working on the pool plumbing, and it looks warm, you know, the sun's shining and everything, but it's actually only about 32 degrees, so we're still all bundled up and everything. We're going to be doing a bunch of dry fitting on the piping this morning, seriously, and I keep saying that, but yeah, we're actually getting ready to do that. The objective here is to get it all dry fit and then mark it with a Sharpie so that we know exactly what the angles are on all the joints and everything, and then come back through, take it apart, clean it with solvent, clean each joint with the solvent, and then go ahead and apply glue to each one of the joints using the Sharpie mark as an indicator where that joint is supposed to be rotated. That way it should all go back together the way we took it apart. But we got a little more digging to do in the pump house before we can get started. Yesterday we finished up by breaking out the floor in the pump house in the corner there, and in an effort to run the pipe through the floor, underneath the pump house, and then down into the ditch where we've got all the pipe and everything coming back to the pump house. So I think that's going to work out real well, but I do have to do a little more digging there. Got a sore finger today because I managed to smash that with the grinder yesterday trying to cut the rebar out of the hole. That was great. So I'm a little gimpy this morning, but it feels all right. It's not going to slow me down too much, I don't think. So I'm going to get started working on the digging in the pump house, and then as soon as my dad gets here, we're going to start dry fitting all the pipe and getting everything laid out. So keep you posted. All right, we got skimmer number 1 all dry fitted. So we got it sitting in its hole over there, and then we got 2-inch line dry fitted from the skimmer over around the corner through the main ditch, going back to the pump house and underneath the pump house floor, and then up through the access hole here into the pump house. So we're going to leave all these stubbed up high, and then once we get our plumbing and everything figured out inside, we'll come back and cut all those off. But of course we're dealing with muddy water, nastiness down in the hole. This just never seems to dry out back here. It's been great, hasn't it, Dad?
Hey, it's great. It's really great. Makes your shoes weigh about 50 pounds.
Absolutely. Appreciate all your help on this project. So we had to chip out some more over here just to be able to make the turn here, straighten that up a little bit. So we got that done this morning. We got some huge piles of dirt. As a result, we're going to get back and try to dry fit all the ones over on this side over here, bring them all in, and then I think we'll go ahead and get them glued, and then start working on the other side over there, start bringing those around. Neptune's just over there chilling, watching the action. Good work, Neptune. All right, so we got our second line in. We're calling this one R1 for return 1, which goes into the side of the pool here. This is one of our 4 wall returns. Goes in through these bulkhead fittings here. So we 45'd it down to the ground, and then it runs along the side of the pool here, around the corner, underneath the skimmer, and then over into the center of the ditch. And goes down along here, and then again goes underneath the pump house floor and up through here. So we got R1 in place. Take a quick break for lunch, and then we'll be back at it. Next we'll work on R2, which is our second wall return. Comes in right here. We're planning on dropping it down and then running on the outside of the skimmer line. That'll be our innermost line going up the ditch here to the pump house. All right, we got return number 2 plumbed up back to the pump house. We got all of the fittings just fit together dry right now, but it looks really good. Everything lays down in the ditch there nicely. Try to keep the fittings to a minimum. And everything coming back into the pump house here. So we got plenty of room to work around there. We'll go ahead and knock stuff apart now, start gluing it back together. All right, we have been making some great progress down here today. My dad's been here giving me a hand pretty much most of the day, and we got 3 lines from the far side of the pool there, or the house side, dry fit and then glued together. So we got them all run from their respective inlets or outlets, and then we got them running to the pool house, and everything's glued in place at this point. So now we're going to start on the other side of the pool, the Neptune end, and start working on that. We've got 2 return jets, we've got a skimmer, we've got a vacuum fitting that you can use for like cleaning the pool, and then that's it for around the pool. And then lastly, we've got to tap into the old line for the main drain and for the floor return that we got into last week. Probably end up saving that for a different day, because that's going to be a little bit more digging, a little bit more of a process there. But we're going to try to get at least 1 or 2 of the returns done, and then I'm going to have to do some more digging on the other side of the pool there to get the skimmer set, and I also have to cut the pool, all the concrete back, to actually get the skimmer in place. So we're not going to be able to get that one plumbed today, but we're going to try to get as much done as we can before it gets dark here after a while. Let me show you what we got done so far. All right, so I'm standing on the diving board end of the pool here, so you can see the skimmer, and then you can see the 2 other lines that come past it. Those are for the return jets. And as you walk back over to the ditch here, you can see where we've got them laid, coming from the house side of the pool through the main ditch here, and then under the pool shed, pump house, whatever you want to call it, and then they come up through the floor of the pump house there. So let me step across the ditch here, and we'll take a look inside, and you can see where we've got the returns. Everything coming up through the pool floor here, or the pump house floor. So we'll get these kind of staggered so that we got plenty of room to make our connections. There you can see the old galvanized stuff. I just cut it off flush with the floor. I'll just fill that in with concrete later on, just to plug that off. But once we get all our lines set here, I'll also put some sand down at the bottom of the hole and some gravel, and then re-pour the slab around the pipes as they're coming up through the floor. Over here next to the pool, you can see where we made our connections. Got everything glued in place. We got the return number 1, wall return number 2, and the skimmer all coming around this side. So, great progress. So far today. Now we're going to start over on the diving board into the pool, the Neptune side, and start bringing some of those fittings around as well. All right, folks, that just about wraps up this episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. We've been down at the house all day today, working on the plumbing around the pool, and have made some great progress. Dad took off about an hour ago, and right before he left, we dug out the diving board corner and started hooking up the plumbing on the return jet right there in that corner opposite the pump house. So I got that all dry fit, and then started getting it glued together. Made it about 3/4 of the way across the pool there. Still need to pick up the rest of it and continue around the corner and get to the pump house and everything on that one. Let me show you what all we got done today. We're really excited about the progress we made. All right, so let's take a walk around and check everything out here. So this is wall jet or return jet number 1, and that one is plumbed. It was dry fit, glued all the way back to the pump house. This over here on this corner is return jet number 4, and we got about 3/4 of it done. Still got to go the rest of the way around the corner. As you'll see, I got down to the other side there, but still got around the corner and then back over around to the pump house. Let's walk across the pool here, take a look. And as you can see, we got the skimmer done. We got return jet number 2 done. And we got all the plumbing pulled around from return jet number 1. And those come into the main ditch go around over here underneath the pump house. Let's walk over there and take a look inside. And inside the pump house, you'll see where we got everything brought up through the floor. So we're going to be able to make our connections here with the new pump and filter and everything else. Get all that ready to go. So a lot of progress this weekend. Very excited about getting all this plumbing glued in place. The boys just made it back to town. Hey, Reed.
What?
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Grant. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good.
What do you think? Looking good?
It looks deeper than I remember.
Not
for
the
some
pool,
reason.
the plumbing.
Oh. The plumbing.
All these pipes up here, Reed.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's worked. Whoa.
Thanks, Reed.
Realize.
So as you can see, we made a ton of progress this weekend. Lots more to do, though. We've got to get the rest of the plumbing run back to the pump house. We've got to get all the new pool equipment installed in the pump house. And then we got to get everything backfilled with sand and ready to backfill with dirt. So we got a lot more to do around the pool, but we are excited to see it finally coming together. We are bound and determined to get it open for this summer. Looking forward to being able to enjoy that with the family. Be sure to hit that subscription button so you don't miss a single episode of Woodmere Estate Revival. Give us a like if you would, please. You got any comments or questions, be sure to leave those down below. And as always, be sure to share the channel with your friends and family. We appreciate all our loyal subscribers. Lots more great stuff to come, so keep tuning back in. See you soon. Thanks.